Hey listener, welcome to the Comic Relief Podcast.
Hope you survived the experience.
The Comic Relief Podcast is an unscripted discussion about the pop culture surrounding comic books, with your hosts,
Uncanny Thomas Logan
and Mighty Maico and Tawmis.
So welcome everyone to another episode of the Comic Relief Podcast. I am your host, Maico Moreno, and with me as always is my life coach and podcast partner in crime, Thomas Logue. How you doing, Thomas?
Hey, I'm doing good. Finally doing another podcast.
I know, back in the studio. It's been a while.
Feels good.
It feels good. Yeah. A lot has happened, man. We've had a lot of stuff going on in the comic world, in the TV world, in the movie world. So let's just go ahead and just jump right into this, right?
Let's do it.
The biggest hype for us, easily, is the new Guardians of the Galaxy 2 teaser dropping, right? Obviously.
Yes.
So let's talk about this, man.
Dude, I can't get enough. I've probably watched it probably like 20 times so far.
It's so perfect. I mean, the scenes, it's a little tiny little snippet, right? All we get is basically just like a couple of quick flashes, some cool scenes, and it's just friggin' awesome. Yondu and Rocket walking down walking down that little what's it called? The catwalk.
Yeah,
just
catwalk.
That
there you go.
Scene is awesome.
I like that it shows it from behind them and then woof, goes to the front of them. Freaking awesome.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't know what it is about Chris Pratt, as Peter Quill in this, but he just looks like I don't know how they did it, but they cranked up like the handsomeness on him like by 10. Yeah. He looks great.
Yeah, and that's the thing that bothers me, right? Because the dude was like a heavyset guy, kind of like me. Yeah. And then he goes into Guardians of the Galaxy and he looks really stunning, like really super hot guy, where I'm like, hey, there's hope for us. And then freaking in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I don't know how to explain it, but the dude freaking somehow got hotter, right?
They gave him like a nice little like a clean goatee and then some nice long chops and then like let his hair grow out a little bit, so he's got a little bit of a wave going on. And yeah, dude, we're just going full gay on.
Yeah. Pretty much. Like he has that longer sideburn, and instead of like the 5 o'clock shadow, he's got like a nice clean goatee.
So instead of talking about
right now,
instead of talking about the action,
we stopped to talk about Chris Pratt.
how hot Chris Pratt is.
Well, we'll probably pull in a new audience with our discussion.
Yeah. So aside from all the cool scenes of like Gamora extending her blade and she's like in this cool spaceship type scene, looks awesome. Rocket looks awesome. The scene with Peter Quill and Drax is really funny.
There are two types of beings in the universe. Those who dance and those who do not.
I get it, yes. I am a dancer, Gamora is not.
You just need to find a woman who is pathetic. Like you.
Thanks, buddy.
Do you need a hug?
No, I do not.
Oh, I thought I said no. You're welcome.
Hooked on a feeling. I'm high on believing.
The dynamic has changed a little bit, right? Because we see Rocket and Yondu kind of walking side by side. And then if you notice in the very final scene when Rocket's blasting the hole through that wall, right. Little baby Groot is on his shoulder and he's wearing a jacket.
Yeah, it looks like the Ravager jacket.
It looks like the Ravager jacket.
Deep red.
So and then on top of that, right, they released this awesome teaser poster where it's like this really cool black and white poster of the team leaned up against the wall. It looks like an album cover, to be honest with you.
It does.
And Yondu's in the mix.
Yeah.
Yondu is right there as if he were part of the Guardians. And not only that, but Nebula also in the mix.
Yes.
So this sounds like they're going to be shaking things up a little bit.
Yeah. I like that they kept Nebula in it.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Happy.
And then we didn't see any Sylvester Stallone or
Kurt Russell.
So no Sly Stallone, no Kurt Russell. We don't see any new characters, which granted, that's fine. This is a teaser trailer. So yeah, it's just they're just giving you a little taste. But Yondu looks awesome. The rest of the guys look awesome. I mean, I would be totally on board if Yondu just became a full-on cast member. right? Like he's a Guardian. I'll be happy with that.
Me too, because in the original Guardians of the Galaxy, in the comic, the original
Very
team,
first one.
yeah, Yondu was actually a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I like that they increased his mohawk too.
Oh yeah. He looks. I think he is probably, aside from Chris Pratt's like handsomeness, how they cranked his handsomeness up to 11. I think Michael Rooker's Yondu looks like awesome.
Yeah,
awesome. They cranked him up. We were talking about this earlier, but Baby Groot is. I wonder if he's going to stay Baby Groot throughout the entire movie. If he does, is Vin Diesel still voicing Baby Groot?
Yeah, we were talking about that. Like, I wonder if they'll have Vin Diesel do the voice, but then do something with the pitch. You know what I mean? To still have it be Vin's voice, so it still kind of sounds like Groot should sound, but then modify the pitch.
I am Groot.
And then still get paid millions of dollars.
You might know something I don't know, or that I don't remember. You'd mentioned no hint of Sylvester Stallone. I did not know he was slated for the movie. I know Kurt Russell is.
Sylvester Stallone was, I think he was confirmed.
They put those two together again, like Tango and Cash?
Like Tango and Cash.
Like, if they do, I want to hear them say FUBAR. Like, I want somewhere in Guardians of the Galaxy to say, this situation is FUBAR.
Yeah. So anyways, if you have not seen the teaser trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I honestly don't know how you could have missed it. It was all over the internet. It's been all over the internet for the last few days. And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 comes out May 5th of next year, 2017. I think we're going to start waiting in line for it this weekend.
I'm ready right now. I am podcasting from the movie theater. I just scribbled up a sign that says Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and I'm just going to wait here. Quit my job. This is it. I've already got the big beard, so...
Yeah. All right. So, not to be outdone here, we have some more. We have another trailer that just dropped. Actually, this one dropped as of the recording. It dropped today as we're recording this, and that is for
Logan.
Yes.
AKA the Wolverine 3.
Yes.
So this trailer looks really good, and I really love the write-up you did on the page where you mentioned, will the trailer be, or will the movie be as good as the trailer? That's kind of clever. That was pretty much.
Well, I mean, it's because historically, with not just Wolverine but the X-Men movies, I've always been disappointed, and it's mostly because the X-Men were the iconic comics to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Spider-Man and Superman and Batman, they were not my iconic superheroes when I got into comics. It was all X-Men. That's literally all I surrounded myself with. So I admit there's probably a higher expectation of what I hope to see, but even when I go in like lowering my expectation, I'm still somehow usually disappointed.
Yeah, the X-Men movies are graded on a different scale.
Then yes,
on a different scale. They have a different range. Like the Marvel movies are they're in a league of their own. They're doing their own thing. They're amazing. The Marvel Studios movies, to be clear. The Fox Studios is, they kicked it up with Deadpool. Deadpool was their first ace, right? That was their first movie that just destroyed it. The other good movies are a little dated, right? X2 was kind of held that spot while Age of Apocalypse was cool. Yeah, not the greatest comic book movie, but it was good.
Yeah.
The Wolverine movies are not in the top anything categories, either one of those two. But we're not here to talk about the first two Wolverine movies. Let's talk about this trailer, right? Right off the bat, what hooked you into this trailer?
So immediately, it's obvious, right? It opens up with that Johnny Cash song. Well, it's a cover, Hurt.
Logan, what did you do?
Charles, the world is not the same as it was. Mutants. They're gone now.
I hurt myself today to see if I still feel.
Immediately, you're already like, whoa. This is kind of dark. And then the trailer is dark. It's like, it looks emotionally dark. Like, Wolverine's old. His hands are shaking. He's bleeding. Everyone looks old. Everyone looks like beat up. This feels like a really, I don't want to say depressing, like it's going to be horribly sad, but it looks like it's going to be a very dark, emotional movie in a good way. That song just adds to that trailer.
Yes, it does. I do like the tone that the song sets. Now, here's the thing: is initially when I saw it, I'm thinking Old Man Logan. I'm thinking this movie is set way into the future. But you saw something different.
Yeah, I saw something very different, and I based it off the information I was given off this trailer. So in the trailer, we see Wolverine is old, right? His hair's gray, his skin is old. He's talking, or he's doing a voiceover over the trailer, and you hear Professor X say,
Logan, what did you do?
And then, he says something like,
Charles, the world is not the same as it was. Mutants. They're gone now.
And to me, knowing that, we see Professor X in the trailer, he's old also, they like even aged him and gave him like a beard a little bit. So to me, that meant this wasn't a movie far in the future, like very far in the future, because Professor X is still alive. I mean, he still looks relatively almost the same age, maybe aged like 10 years since we last saw him. So to me, with what Wolverine said and the clues I picked up, to me, it sounds like when Wolverine is indicating that
Charles, the world is not the same as it was. Mutants. They're gone now.
Just exactly that. Not that they're all dead, not that they've all been wiped out, not that this is like 50 years in the future because Professor X is still around, but something has happened to those with mutant abilities, and it looks like including him. I think something happened to Wolverine's mutant powers as well. This is why he's aging, because now his mutant healing factor is no longer slowing down his aging process, and that's why I think when they show his hands in the sink, his hands are cut up. To me, that's another sign his healing factor is not healing. So it looks like he's popping his claws and it's ripping up his skin and it's no longer healing him. So that's what I think. I think there's no more mutants is an indication that the people are still there. They've just lost their powers somehow.
So then this is a continuation of the X-Men movie timeline that takes place after Days of Future Past, when Wolverine goes back to the mansion and he sees the Professor, he sees Scott, he sees Aurora. Still in this timeline for the Logan movie, is what you're saying.
See, unfortunately, with the Wolverine and X-Men movies, they've not done a clear job of keeping a clear timeline, right?
Following your logic, that would make sense, right? Because Patrick Stewart is our professor in this. Yep. Would make sense to kind of wrap up that continuity. This is kind of like, we're just wrapping up this continuity. We kind of talked at work about his claws, because I said, well, if he doesn't have his powers, how do his claws pop? You made a good point that his claws are more anatomy than they are mutant powers at this point. So like if you had, an Angel, a Warren Worthington in this timeline, which we did in X3, he wouldn't, even if you depowered Angel, he would probably keep his wings.
Because they're a physical mutation. They're not actually like a embedded superpower, like an optic blast or a healing factor, as if Warren was part bird or Wolverine was part whatever animal extends claws like a cat.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah.
I could be completely wrong though.
I totally missed that. I totally went the Old Man Logan route. And then we have, of course, X-23. We see a young X-23 in the trailer. It looks like that's who Logan is protecting and trying to guide through. Pretty cool. We also get Reavers.
Yes.
So, it's so funny, man, because as much as we dog on these movies, it's like a double-edged sword, right? They've given us now the Sentinels, the Hellfire Club. I wouldn't say obscure, but
right. The things that we want.
The things that we wanted. Yeah, we've got an Apocalypse. I'm a little hesitant to get too excited about the Reavers.
I was telling you at work, I'm pretty sure that blonde dude who puts on the sunglasses and has a cybernetic arm, I'm pretty sure that's Donald Pierce, who was from the Hellfire Club originally in the comics and would go on to lead the Reavers. But it looks to me like the Reavers in the movie are just dudes in a truck. When I was looking at it, I was trying to see if there was any dudes that were like part machine other than, Donald Pierce's arm. And they all just look like dudes with guns that are driving those trucks. And I was like, okay, so that's probably going to be the Reavers. It's just like a bunch of like thugs, basically.
Yeah, so instead of like having like a Bone Breaker and Lady Deathstrike, but I would like it if they had Bone Breaker and he was half tank. That'd be pretty cool.
If that is indeed Donald Pierce who is there and they use him correctly, that's fine. I don't care what you do with the Reavers. Just make Donald Pierce a bad. That's all I ask.
Like Sebastian Shaw.
Yeah, let's make him better than Sebastian Shaw. I'm still really, really angry.
Dude, I know we get down on the X movies and Fox Studios a lot, but this trailer looks pretty cool.
Yes.
I'm excited, and that's a dangerous thing. Oh, right, this movie is going to be rated R. Thanks to Deadpool, Logan will be rated R, and hopefully they actually do something with it, and it's not just a gimmick. Hopefully they let the Berserker Rage come out like in true form, and we actually see him. We actually see Logan really get down and tear some dudes up.
So that's what worries me, right? So we know this movie's rated R. We know it's probably going to sort of follow the path of Deadpool, maybe have that ultra-violent stuff. But they've made Wolverine old, potentially without a healing factor. If what I'm pulling away from the trailer is correct, do not give me the chance to see Wolverine go berserk and not do it because he doesn't have a healing factor.
Like in The Wolverine?
Where I totally thought he was going to go crazy because all those ninjas were throwing those spears with ropes on him, and I thought he was just going to pull him down and just go berserker rage on him, and then he just falls over in the snow.
He gets taken down.
I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it was like the moment, like, here we go. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. And he just falls over.
Yeah.
They should have shown Hugh Jackman's eyes just go red.
Yeah.
And him just go to town. Just go like with a red, black, and white color palette for the entire scene and just have him like go nuts.
That would have been perfect.
But
how they say animals see in black and white. So you just have everything in black and white except for the blood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's freaking
they set it up for that.
But we say this all the time. We need to be doing these movies. It's fine what you filmed here. Let me show you what you need to fix.
At least consult. Let us be consultants.
Give me my little chair that says Thomas on the back and I'll sit there. So I'm hoping we get to see Wolverine go berserker, and I hope that this is why it's rated R, and I hope that they don't slow him down because he doesn't have a healing factor.
Okay, so check this out. I did find a synopsis, and it says, in 2024, mutant births are severely in decline, and people aren't sure why. A government-type operation is turning mutant children into killing machines. From this, Logan emerges as a mentor to a mutant girl who has 2 claws instead of 3.
Look at that.
So the Logan comes out March 3rd, 2017. So circle that on your calendar. During our little hiatus, we got a new Netflix series.
Yes.
Luke Cage, the Power Man. All right, man. What did you think?
So when I first watched it, right, I got through the first 6 episodes, right? And when I had reached the 6th episode, I was like, this is rough. Like, I don't know if I can make it. To me, the pacing was off, right? So usually when we've seen Daredevil, Jessica Jones, or any other freaking Netflix movie like Stranger Things, whatever, always ended on a cliffhanger, right? Like it stops and you're like, I can't go to bed. It's 3 a.m, but I have to watch the next episode. The first 6 episodes of Luke Cage, for me anyway, the pacing seemed very off. There were times. Okay, well, first, anyone listening, spoilers ahead. So if you've not watched Luke Cage,
yes,
yes, I'm about to spoil something as an example. So in the first 6 episodes, there was a lot of times where something really dramatic would happen, where I would in my head say, this is it, like this is where they're going to stop and make me watch the next one. But then it would just keep going and do something else and break that high end pace I was feeling. Like my heart's like pounding in my chest, and then they go do something that's a lot slower. For example, when Black Mariah pummels the out of her brother and just boom, smashes his face in like brutally.
Yeah.
It's not even just a little bit. It is brutal and it's bloody and it's blah. His face is just caved in, right? So we see Shades in the background that watches this, and she's like, boom, 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 boom. And I thought, okay, this is where like it's going to fade out and it's going to stop there and it's going to make me watch the next one. But it didn't. It fades out and then it goes to Misty Knight, who's looking at photos. And she's like trying to piece something together. And I was like, that was weird. Like I was super amped up and now you've just slowed me down. But after the 6th episode, everything was paced perfect. I was in it after the 6th episode. And the thing is, the first 6 episodes aren't bad. It's just I felt like the pacing was off. The characters are amazing.
I'm usually really sensitive to pacing. Like if something is paced wrong or incorrectly or just has a weird pace, like I'm hypersensitive to it. I notice it. And I didn't get that from this. The scene that you described, or the one that you mentioned, where
Black Mariah.
I'm trying to remember the actress's Alfred Woodard, right?
Okay.
She plays Black Mariah, and then Mahershala Ali plays Cottonmouth. Okay, Netflix is known for their great villains. They do villains right, and Cottonmouth is no exception. And the entire, the first half of the show, I'm waiting for Cottonmouth to really have his "this dude is completely nuts" moment, right? Or that breakout scene. And he has a couple of good scenes, and that scene that you mentioned was such a cool turn of events, because it turns out, he's not the messed up one. I mean, he is obviously, but Black Mariah is way more messed up. And like the other like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, these villains aren't just messed up to be messed up. These dudes are psychologically up by certain childhood events that make them who they are now. And Black Mariah, she kind of shook it off and dealt with it, and Shades stepped in and said, all right, you did, again, Shades was kind of pushing her to do it a little bit to kind of get rid of Cottonmouth, and he did, and she did, and it was like, okay, wow, that was really good. We've seen some some hesitant superheroes, in other stories and stuff, but he plays an everyman just perfect. He does not want to do this. He has no interest in being a superhero.
And they did such a good job doing little references and nods to the comic. Like when he had the metal wristbands and the headpiece, a nod to the comic. He put on the yellow shirt, a nod to the comic. I mean, there was a ton of little nods. I can't even count how many times he said "Sweet Christmas," and it made me laugh every time.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily read Luke Cage growing up, or was never a huge fan of Heroes for Hire or anything like that. But you watch those videos with all the Easter eggs, and there is a ton of Easter eggs to the comic. Chio Hodari Coker, amazing job. Amazing job. Dude did his homework. Let's talk about Misty Knight, Simone Missick. She was awesome, man. I think she stole the show a little bit from Luke Cage.
Do you think so?
I think so. I think her story was really well written. When Luke Cage wasn't on scene, I think she's the perfect co-star. If, for example, in Daredevil, when you see Karen Page on screen, or when you see Foggy, you're not like, ugh, get it over with, get back to Matt Murdock. You're really interested in what's going on in their story. And I felt the same way with Misty Knight. I liked her story, with the whole thing with her partner, and her partner being crooked and everything. Like, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I mean, they do a great job with like the supporting cast. With, like you said, with Misty Knight, Foggy, everyone. But you said she kind of stole the show from Luke Cage to me. So I loved her story with her partner. I had a feeling something was up. You know what I mean? Because she was too good, and I was like, something has to happen to her that's gonna mess her up, and it has to be her partner. Cop movie 101.
But I like that Misty kind of like, she was like, no, that was my partner. I know he was crooked, and I know he was messed up, but she still learned a lot from him, and that was her boy. So there was one thing that did kind of bum me out, and I knew my expectations were a little misplaced, but when Misty Knight is like a jacked up arm, right, and Claire Temple is like trying to stitch her up and really getting in there and tying off the vein, I honestly thought that Misty was going to lose her arm, and I got a little excited over that.
Right, because in the comics she has a bionic arm.
She has a bionic arm, yeah. So I was thinking,
they even allude to it like several times, like, if this was any tighter, you would have lost your arm. And I was like, you son of a bitch, you knew every one of us was watching that, waiting for that to happen.
Even if the show would have ended with her just missing an arm, like, I get it, you're not going to give her a bionicle arm.
They allude to that type of technologies there, right? Because the bullet piercing ones are alien from the Avengers reference.
Yep.
So they have like various technology. It would not have been far-fetched to say, oh, she has a bionic arm.
Again, another friggin' home run from the Marvel Netflix crew, man.
Yes.
So check this out, right? So we've all talked about like what an amazing job the MCU has been doing with bringing B-listers and C-listers to the A-list, like Iron Man and Ant-Man and the Guardians. You know, some relatively unknown characters, right, are now mainstream. This is what 2017 is bringing us. Follow me here, right? We're going to get Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Amen.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yep.
Thor Ragnarok.
Yep.
Iron Fist, The Defenders, and The Punisher.
Cannot wait, cannot wait, cannot wait.
Dude! Right?
It is a good time to be a comic book fan. It really is. Like you said, they're obscure characters. I mean, Power Man and Iron Fist ran as a comic, you know, in the 80s for like 125 issues or something like that. The team of the Guardians of the Galaxy that we see in the movie ran for 25 issues in a comic by Dan Abnett, Andy Lanning.
Everybody knows who the Guardians of the Galaxy is.
Yeah, and then Ant-Man. Who would have thought Ant-Man would be such an incredible movie? And now, like, everyone knows Ant-Man. Everyone knows who Scott Lang Ant-Man is.
Even names like The Punisher, right? We've had a few Punisher movies. What Netflix has done with The Punisher, I have female cousins that are 10 years younger than me that are like, dude, The Punisher rocks. I can't wait for the Punisher series to come out. And then you go down the line, and of course, Black Panther, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Captain Marvel, right? We still got those characters. It's amazing, dude. It's cool. So that kind of wraps up our trailers and TV show. So Thomas and I have been alluding to doing this list, this podcast, this review, I think since we started the podcast.
Yeah, it was like one of the first ideas.
Yeah. So do you want to kind of explain what this little segment is called here?
What did we call it? The X-Men character review.
We need a better name than that.
The Extreme X-Men review.
Throw Extreme in there. How about the X list? Tom and Maico's X list.
Well, then it's going to sound like we're talking about girlfriends.
Yeah. Tom and Maico's favorite exes. All right, let's do this. This is a long list, guys, and we'll save you. We'll break this down in a bite-sized morsels because we honestly have about 93 characters, and we could easily add a ton more. But we'll do this. Let's hit the first 10. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of go in through the different X teams, right? Beginning with the original 1963 X-Men.
And basically, they're sorted by order how they would chronologically have joined the X-Men is how we did it.
There you go. Thank you. So let's go ahead and start with the original X-Men. And let me just run down the names real quick of the original X-Men so everyone listening can kind of follow along, right? So, of course, Professor X, he is the leader and the mentor of the team. Cyclops, Iceman, Angel / Archangel, Beast, Marvel Girl / Phoenix, Mimic, Changeling, Magnetrix / Polaris, and Havoc. And if you're wondering, well, you know, I remember that 1963 X-Men 1 comic, and I don't remember Polaris or Changeling or Mimic.
These are all people who joined the X-Men at some point before a new team of X-Men was created, is basically how we did it.
And we've graded these characters by their costumes, their powers, and then we've given them sort of an overall score.
Just to explain the ranking, what we did is we took how many ever X-Men we have in this list, like 90 or so, and we gave, based on that, for each category, for the costume, powers, and overall, we're allowed to give 10 X-Men a score of 10, 9 X-Men a score of 9, 8 X-Men a score of 8, and work its way down. And then basically when you get to 1, that's all the 1 points that you could give out. So only 10 X-Men were allowed to have a score of 10 in the costume department, and then in the powers, and then so that's going to kind of explain how we scored it, like why we gave someone a low score. It's probably because we gave another X-Men somewhere down the list a higher score.
Start with Professor X.
With Professor Charles Xavier.
Yes.
So for him, I gave him a costume of 1. He kind of strolled around in a green shirt and a wheelchair, right? So there's not a lot to this dude's costume.
No.
Powers, I gave him a 7 because he's one of the most powerful telepaths in the world. Overall, I gave him a score of 4. He's got great powers, but not such a great costume. He did have a costume briefly where he was able to walk. It was like a pure yellow costume with a big black X on it. I don't know if you remember that. What do you got?
Yeah, so for costume, I gave him a 1. I mean, the only cool costume or the only cool look that he had, or my favorite look, was the 90s levitating yellow wheelchair. It wasn't a wheelchair, yellow levitating seat, right? The Shi'ar kind of hovering seat that he had. That's been like, his coolest sort of look, in my opinion, anyways. The powers, I gave him an 8. He dude's pretty powerful.
Right.
And I did like when writers would explore his power, right? I remember there's one issue in particular where it's sort of him at the bank, and a robbery takes place, and he scans the crowd and finds a woman who is obviously scared, right? The robbers are sticking up the place, and he's telepathically speaking to her, and he's saying, "Hey, don't be alarmed. I'm a mutant. You're gonna get us out of this." And the woman's like, "How?" And Professor X is like, "Look, I noticed that you have some training, some martial arts training." And she says, "Yeah, but I only got like a yellow belt in karate back." And Professor X is like, "Just shut up. Look, I'm gonna go ahead and explode your full potential of whatever little training you got." And he does this, and he talks to her through it and convinces her, and she totally beats down these robbers. And she's like, "Holy, how did I do that?" And Professor X kind of gives his little wink and a nod and says, "Now you did it. You had it in you," and kind of drives off. So he does have it. And then there's the whole astral plane,
the fighting on the astral plane.
Fighting and the stories and the astral plane action. But for me, I like him in small doses. He's sent off so many teenagers to their deaths. He's abandoned the X-Men a bunch of times.
Next, we have the field leader of the X-Men, Cyclops.
Oh, man. The original Peter Quill here for me.
There you go. Do you want to talk about him first?
Yeah, he is one of my perfect score characters. And my favorite costume of his is the Age of Apocalypse Cyclops, that version of Scott Summers.
I agree. I thought your favorite version was the 90s one.
It was a toss-up. And I've had, even when I played the RPG, the Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Yeah. Yes.
The MMO. I'm sorry, the MMO. That one. I forget the title of it. I'm sorry. But I went to go buy his costume. He's one of the few characters where I actually paid for a costume. Like, I forked up the $4 to $5 for the costume. And as I was going to buy the 90s version, I got kind of stuck between the Age of Apocalypse and 90s. And Age of Apocalypse just looks so cool, man. And just the fact that he has like one eye gouged out. Yes. He's got the long hair covering the other eye. Just looks metal. Just awesome.
See? So he was one of your perfects. He got a perfect score, 10, 10, 10, right?
Yeah, totally.
So for me, for costume, I gave him an 8. Because I've actually liked pretty much every version except for his very, very first costume. Mm-hmm. I've pretty much liked every version of Cyclops' costume. Even the one that was just pretty much like the dark blue with the yellow.
Yeah, that was dope. That was perfect. Yeah. Even the dark blue with the white cross like that. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I gave him an 8 for costume. For powers, I gave him 9. Like, when I was a kid, I remember, because I read X-Men so much, I used to fantasize about being able to shoot optic blasts out of my eyes.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was, like, such a cool power. And then, so for overall, I gave him a 9. So he got pretty close to a high perfect score. And he ended up with 26 out of 30 for me. Not bad. Yeah, no, I love Cyclops. And I always felt like he kind of got, I mean, like, you're right. In the 90s cartoon, he was kind of portrayed as like the stuck-up, not stuck-up, the kind of a square Boy Scout, almost a fatherly figure a little bit, if you're not counting the professor. Really dry, right? That's what they've always kind of portrayed him as. And I sort of got that from the comic, but not that exaggerated. He was definitely a Boy Scout, but he was a dude trying to hold it together. I mean, he has all these crazy personalities, and he has dudes that he's dealing on his team, like, Bobby Drake, who's a total clown, and Wolverine, who's a total wild card, and Beast, who's like super snobby, and then you got all these other characters that are just like super all over the place, and then you have this dude that's just like cool. Yeah, cool, straight faced. He's got it. He's got it under control. When he's in the field, he's gonna be giving orders, and all these crazy personalities
need him on the field, right?
Yeah.
They want him. So I like Cyclops. I think he's badass.
Cool.
One of my favorite characters.
Very, very cool. Do you
Cool.
want to introduce the next one?
Next up, we got, speaking of Bobby Drake, we got Bobby Drake, the Iceman. So what scores did you give Bobby?
Unfortunately, despite his power, I didn't think he was all that cool. What I did there.
That was all right.
So for his costume, like originally he looked like a snowman. He was actually he actually looked like he was made out of snow. They fixed that and actually made him look like he was made out of ice, which I thought was a cooler look. But overall, I still gave him a score of 3. His powers, I gave him a score of 2, and overall, a score of 2. For a total score of 7.
Whoa! No way.
Yeah.
First of all, let's back this thing up. All right, for his costume,
Mm-hmm.
I gave him an 8.
8.
An 8 because when he is like full on Ice Cube, to me that is an iconic look.
It is.
I don't know what it is for me, and then they sort of evolved him to have like he can grow spikes, he can turn into this like ice monster. I thought that was pretty cool. I really liked his look, right? So in the case of Iceman, it's less of a costume and more of a look, and that's kind of how I took it, right? Because
Cool.
otherwise he doesn't really wear a costume. He's just kind of in his
He has his Speedos.
or his Speedo, yeah, exactly. For powers, I gave him an 8.
8. Wow.
I gave him an 8. You know why? Because his ice slide is legit.
You know what? I'll give it to you. The ice slide is awesome. And I remember that mostly from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's where
Yeah.
I remember it. I remember thinking, that's pretty cool. Because Spider-Man would just hang on and then slide behind him.
And slide with him, yeah. And the thing is too is like artists in the books get really creative with this ice slide. When you see Bobby Drake ice sliding, there's always like loop-de-loops and twists and turns, and it's like, wow, dude, is he really that? It's like so inefficient, or maybe he's just having fun where he's like doing like triple loop-de-loops. You know what I mean? Like, all right, Bobby Drake, that's cool. And obviously he's just leaving like these giant like pillars of ice everywhere he goes. Yeah, but still super iconic. I mean, when I look back at the X-Men, I can see Archangel flying, Iceman, or Archangel soaring, Iceman with his ice slide, like Beast and Wolverine like lunging. Like this is the explosive team that that comes to mind, and Iceman is definitely a part of that. Overall, I gave him a 9 for a total score of 25.
Very different than my score.
Yeah. The only problem I have with Iceman is that he's another one of those characters that's been around for so long, yet they always seem to have trouble with the Bobby Drake character, right? His personality is a little vague. He's always been sort of like the younger brother of the team. He's a little bit childish. No one really takes him serious. So it's always nice to get a Bobby Drake story that has some meaning behind it, that has a little bit of depth. It's cool, but those are very few and far between.
I agree. I feel like sometime after the original X Factor, when they left that team, I feel like they kind of lost who Bobby Drake was.
A little bit, right?
I felt like he just got lost into the shuffle of all the other X-Men. All right, so next we have Angel/Archangel. So he scored really high with me with his costume.
Yeah.
I even liked his original costume, both the red and the white version with a little halo in it. I liked that. But when they made him Archangel,
dude,
metal wings that tossed the blades, gave him a score of 9 on his costume. For his powers, who doesn't want to fly? And then if someone pisses you off, who doesn't want to throw like metal blades at him? Gave him a score of 9 for his powers. And then overall, I gave him a score of 7. Now he almost scored really high, so it was a total of I believe 25 for him.
Okay. Favorite costume is the Archangel costume, right?
Yeah, definitely. I like his original costume because that's what I grew up with, and he was in the Defenders and the New Defenders, and that's to me that's where I really got to know Angel the most, right? So even though he'd been in the X-Men so much back in the day, in New Defenders, they did so much with Warren. Like everything revolved around him. He was responsible for their base because he had this house.
Yeah, he bankrolled the team basically, right?
And they had a lot of dynamic with him and Candy Southern, I believe her last name was. She was in it a lot. So you got a lot of interaction between him and her and him and the rest of the team. That's when I got to know Angel the most. So I kind of liked that classic costume he had.
Yeah, Angel with the X-Men kind of fell victim to the same problems that Bobby Drake did with the X-Men, where he had this really cool looking character character with very little depth. Originally, he was like this sort of rich playboy. Yeah, and that was kind of it. I gave Angel a 10 for the costume, and I'm going off of Archangel. I think Angel himself with the wings has had some very cool looks. Like there are very few looks that he's rocked that I didn't like, if any. Again, 90s kid, 90s X-Men kid. Archangel's just like, what? Powers, I gave him a 9. Again, Archangel, like you said, throws the blades. As the Angel himself, he's not really like he doesn't really have super strength, super speed. He just has wings.
No, I was gonna say they eventually gave him where like his blood can heal people.
Yeah, they've done like second and third evolutions, and it's like, stop.
Yeah,
and then with Bobby Drake too, he's like an Omega level mutant, and all right, like I get like, okay, he can pull moisture out of the air, like that's cool. Like that's a nice little sort of layer to his powers. Overall, I give him Archangel a 29, and again, this is to me one of the iconic X-Men.
Next we have the fascinating Beast.
Beast, not one of my favorite characters.
Agreed.
Yeah, I gave him, as far as costumes go, I gave him a 6. And again, that 6 is it's the 90s Beast, right? All the other evolutions of Beast they need to stop. The Beast character to some sort of a cat, and then he had a third evolution where he was like an ape beast. As far as powers go, I gave him a 7. My favorite Beast was probably the Ultimate X-Men version of the Beast, which they killed like in issue 7.
For me, you were actually much nicer than I was.
Yeah, I think I gave him too many points.
Yeah, for me, for his costume, I liked his classic blue fur costume. To me, that's always been Beast. So for costume, I gave him a 6 because I did like the blue fur, the classic one. For his powers, I gave him a 1, and then for overall, I gave him a 4. So for a total of 11 points.
I wish I would have given. Now I want to redo my page.
All right, so wow. I don't know what's wrong with me because now I'm looking at my score for Marvel Girl and Phoenix. I have no idea where I was going with this.
You want to redo it too?
Yeah.
Just scrap this and later.
So for some reason, for Marvel Girl / Phoenix, I gave her costume a 6.
What?
I don't know why I did that. That should have been a 10 because of her Dark Phoenix costume.
Yeah,
it's one of my all-time favorite costumes, like ever. I don't know why I did the 6. I must not have been thinking clearly.
I gave her a 9 just for that Dark Phoenix costume.
Yeah. I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah. I'm kind of stupid.
She's rocked a lot of really cool costumes.
Yeah, for her powers, I gave her 7.
What?
I know. I must not have been. I swear to God, I must not have been thinking of the Dark Phoenix because I would have given her a 10 for the fact that she ate a planet.
I gave her a 10 for powers. She's one of the most powerful mutants ever to have existed.
And then I don't know what I was doing here either. Like overall, I gave her a 5.
Marvel Girl, Phoenix, Dark Phoenix, Jean Grey she's one. She goes on my like all-time team. Like if I'm putting a team together, she's going to be on the team.
Look at this. I found my notes. Marvel Girl / Phoenix. This is difficult. The entire Dark Phoenix story is one of my all-time favorite X-Men stories. However, everything else they've done since then makes Jean Grey a nightmare. But once she died and came back like 6 or 7 times or how many ever times it was, it became ridiculous. I feel like they ruined the character.
And that is the problem with Jean Grey is you can almost set a timer to like, or some sort of a countdown to when is she going to die? When is she going to turn into the Phoenix? Yep. And it's like, dude, you guys gotta break that cycle.
Stop trying to recapture what happened the first time she died. You know what I mean? It was a big deal when, the Shire come for her, or Shi'ar. The Shi'ar come for her, and the Imperial Guard go after the X-Men, and they duke it out, and she sacrifices herself. Big deal. A major character has just died. But they've done it now to the point it's ridiculous. Like when she dies, you're like, whatever.
Yeah. It's like, the big hype is that the next movie is going to be set in the 90s and it's going to be Dark Phoenix. And it's like, well, there we go. We're going back to the same story. You're going to kill Jean.
Yeah.
We're going to be original. Okay. So next we have Mimic.
See, this is where you and I were very different.
Costume 1, powers 1, overall 1, for a total of 3. After that, we have Changeling.
Hey, let me talk about Mimic here. Let me talk about how cool this dude is, okay?
Oh, man.
Do you remember Mimic?
No.
I actually liked that he had all these powers welled up in him and he couldn't really control them all that well. It's so weird that I scored his costume higher than Jean Grey.
Jean Grey's really...
I gave him a 7 for his costume. I actually thought it was kind of cool. The big M on his chest. It's whatever. It's no different than the big X that the X-Men used to have, or X Factor.
The big M that Magneto had on his chest. But this is like the dude, like when you're like 7 years old and you're creating your own character, and you're like, yeah, dude, I'll give him like Cyclops' visors and Wolverine's claws and Angel's wings and Nightcrawler's tail and Beast's feet.
That was his power, that he absorbed people's mutant powers around him.
Yeah, within range, right?
Yeah. And what's cool is one of the stories in X-Force, the X-Force team goes after him to hunt him down. He gets within range of Warpath and was like, you don't even know your full potential. You don't even know everything you can do. So it was kind of cool that they used him to allude that Warpath has all this untapped potential.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool. So he ended up with a 4 for a score of 21 compared to your 3.
Whatever. Next is Changeling.
Changeling, I see you gave him 111. Do you want to talk about him?
1-3. No, I said, man, I don't like Morph. I don't like Changeling.
So Changeling was basically, so in the X-Men, to explain it, so I gave his costume a 6. I thought it was kind of funky looking, but powers were a 1 and overall was a 1. So he got a score of 8 from me. But he was basically a dude to basically explain, because they had killed, quote unquote, killed Professor Xavier. And so Changeling was basically made to say, oh, you know what? Actually, they did not kill Professor Xavier. Professor Xavier had this mutant who could shapeshift to take his place. And so who they had actually killed is actually Changeling.
He was Morph.
What do you mean he was Morph?
Changeling was Morph. That's who they used in, because he was actually in the Exiles. I'm looking at his picture and it's like this white dude with purple cape, right?
Yeah, but that's not what Changeling wore. Changeling wore this like weird, funky, alien-looking helmet. Like it had all these little things that stick out, and it was a purple costume. And he was like super skinny
with a white face, right?
No, he had a regular face, like regular human face.
Then I'm.
Morph was used in Exiles, yes, but that's different than Changeling. Two different people.
Oh, okay. Forgive me. They both suck.
He didn't like you.
No, I didn't like him.
So next we move down to Polaris.
Yes, greenheads, hot.
I agree. It's really weird. I have such weird fetishes when it comes to comics.
Yeah, dude, I love when they like would put some shades on her and like her big flowing green hair. It's just like, oh, this chick's awesome. What is this? Why is her hair green?
Part of her mutation.
For costume, I gave her a 7. I liked her X Factor costume, the 90s X Factor costume. Right. I was just kind of like where I really got to know Polaris and, Havoc as a couple, and I liked that costume. For her powers, I gave her a 1 for originality.
Magneto first.
She's just a female version of Magneto. Her powers were anyways.
For me, I gave her a score of 6 on her costume. I liked her original costume, the green and black one that she first appeared in. For powers, I gave her a 9 because I thought she's pretty powerful. It's a cool power to have. Overall, I gave her a 9. So I really like Polaris. I've always liked her character in the X-Men, and especially when she was a part of the X Factor team.
And then the last, but most certainly not least, is Havoc. Havoc is my second perfect score on the list, and also a Summers brother.
Ironically, he scored a perfect with me. He actually got a 30 from both of us for a total of 60. So he actually scored one of the highest.
Rightfully so, man. And my favorite costume is his classic black costume with the weird headpiece. He has some of the coolest looks and action, like his powers and his costume and the way he's drawn, and when he's like walking around and he's got the circles emanating from his fists and he's shooting the cones from his chest. They hit a home run with Havoc.
I agree.
And perfect name too. Perfect name, Havoc. Yep. That's awesome.
Yep. I've always kind of related to this guy who wants to be Cyclops, wants to be that dude that's respected, but just isn't there among his peers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought he shined as the leader of X Factor.
Yes, that's what I loved. Like, he got that opportunity to be that leader.
Yeah, the poor dude was in a very similar situation as Scott, right? Like, he finally gets himself into this situation where he's like, okay, I'm leading my own team. And he has this ragtag group of mostly comprised of idiots, right? Like multiple man and strong guy and all these egos and just weirdos. And he's trying to keep it together. And while Cyclops always seems to be like cool, level-headed, Havoc a lot of times is like, he's trying to maintain that cool level head, but at the same time, you can kind of feel that he's teetering on being like overwhelmed.
I agree. And I liked, because in that X Factor run, they actually had a shrink that they would go talk to.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great, because you're not just seeing him fight fighting and, doing all this cool stuff in the battlefield, but you're getting their in-depth thought of like, this is what I think of where I'm at. This is what I think of my team. It was awesome, dude.
Great book, great team, great character. One of my favorites.
Agreed. Definitely one of my favorites.
That's our list. That's our first 10, the original X-Men, 1963 through 1970. We'll continue going down the list, keep going on, and hopefully we'll eventually complete the entire list before the X-Men are completely phased out of Marvel comic continuity. Do you have anything else to add to the X-Men list of X's?
Not at all. This is all the X's I wanted to talk about.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you, everyone, for listening. We really appreciate it. And until next time, you guys have a great, great day, great night. How do we sign off of this thing?
It depends on what time they're listening to it. So have a great whatever you're doing right now. Just enjoy yourself. Enjoy your day and night. Evening, whatever the position of the planet is in accordance to the sun at the time that you're listening to this. Enjoy that. Yeah.
Where can folks find us, dude? Real quick.
Oh, you can go to www.comicreliefpodcast.com. On there, there's a couple of articles that we've talked about. Some of the stuff. The Guardians of the Galaxy trailer is there. The Logan trailer is there, and other articles are there. So you can go to www.comicreliefpodcast.com, or you can go to youtube.com/Comic Relief Podcast, or you can go to twitter.com/Comic Relief Pod and then the letter C, or instagram.com/Comic Relief Podcast, the letter C.
It was great talking to you. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Comic Relief Podcast.
We'll hope you join us next time as we continue to discuss all things comic book related.
And until then, make mine Marvel
and DC
and independent.
Don't forget to check us out at comicreliefpodcast.com, or you can visit our Facebook page at www.facebook.com/Comic Relief Podcast, or go to our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/Comic Relief Podcast. And finally, there is our Twitter page, which is twitter.com/Comic Relief PODC. I'd like to give a special shout out to Travis Richards, who did the music for the Comic Relief Podcast. Visit his website at www.travisarichards.com.
Or something like that. Whatever. I already forgot the order.
Guardian, Logan, Luke Cage, X-Men. Do you want me to text it to you?
Yes.
Amy will be back.
Tell her to hurry.
Maico says hurry.
You actually sent me the text.
Well, yeah.